Welcome back to Caroline Country for a very exciting episode. I've been given access to the first preview from Caroline's new album, Poetry Personified, ahead of its big release, and we'll be hearing it together for the first time today. On this album, Caroline brings her favorite poems to life through song, which gives us an opportunity to listen to some incredible music while we dig into the power of poetry. Today, let's honor Caroline's love of poetry and put our analysis skills to work by paying close attention to the poet's words that she's chosen to share first. We'll be digging deeper into a clever technique that poets use to craft their words so that we as readers can create meaning that goes way beyond those words. Caroline's musical version of a classic poem will immerse us in the words of poet Emily Dickinson. And I can't wait to share it with you right after this. As the world anticipates the release of Caroline's new album, Poetry Personified, we get a sneak peek, and it starts right now. Let's hear this early release from Emily Dickinson's Because I Could Not Stop for Death, Caroline's version.
Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality.
Whoa, that's some deep stuff. I need a moment to process that. How about you? What do you notice about how the poet characterizes death? Pause the video while you think. Did you notice that the poet is talking about death as though it's an actual person? I mean, first of all, apparently death is a he, and he kindly stopped for the speaker of this poem. I would normally think of some death character as being mean and ominous, definitely not kind. How do you think this human characterization of death is contributing to the mood of these lines of poetry? You know, I think this is making me think of death as a not so bad kind of guy here. Like, maybe if this kind fella were my taxi driver, I'd feel totally okay hopping in the cab. That's not what I would expect the mood to be in a poem about death. But the characterization of death as a kind man lightens the mood and makes death seem like something you don't need to fear. So all the poet had to do was assign human characteristics to an idea, and that had some pretty cool effects on the meaning and mood of the poem. Do you know what it's called when an author grants human characteristics to something that is not a human? Personification. Anytime an author grants human characteristics to a non-human thing, that's called personification. These non-humans could be anything, like objects, animals, places, or even abstract nouns, such as emotions or ideas. Personification is really a specialized type of metaphor that focuses on comparisons to human characteristics. Like with other literary devices, authors can use personification to enhance meaning, establish a mood, and even develop a theme. By comparing a non-human thing to a person, we as readers can now make inferences and create meaning based on our understanding of the human characteristics. And as humans, we're especially expert at understanding human ideas. So poets and all authors can tap into this by using personification to help us understand a whole lot about something without needing to explain it with a whole lot of words. So take another look at these lines and think about what meaning you can find from them that the poet did not have to actually write down. Pause the video while you think. By personifying death as a kind man, Dickinson softens our view of mortality, suggesting a serene passage rather than a fearful end. The carriage's other passenger, immortality, subtly introduces the concept of life beyond death, all without directly addressing religious beliefs. So, without explicitly saying so, Dickinson uses personification to suggest that death is a natural, inevitable part of life that should be met with dignity and peace, and that there is something beyond death, immortality. This is a profound amount of insight and emotion being conveyed through the poet's use of personification. Wow! Caroline is known for creating poetic music, but I can tell already that her new album, full of classic poems, is really going to make us think. In fact, it's got me thinking about an incredibly moving poem we read last week. In Paul Laurence Dunbar's poem, Sympathy, he uses personification to represent some pretty powerful ideas about oppression and freedom. Let's read the final stanza together so you can see what I mean. I know why the cage bird sings ah me, when his wing is bruised and his bosom sore, when he beats his bars and he would be free. It is not a carol of joy or glee, but a prayer that he sends from his heart's deep core, but a plea that upward to heaven he flings. I know why the cage bird sings. This poetry is personified indeed. Okay, we just practiced thinking about personification with the last poem, so I think you're ready to try it out on your own. What meaning can you create from this poet's personification of the bird? Pause the video while you think. Here's what I noticed. This bird is in a cage, but wants to be free. Okay, I guess a bird could want such a thing, but the poet assigns human characteristics to the bird by mentioning the prayer the bird is sending up to heaven. Now, this bird has become something so much more than an animal in a cage. It represents the human desire to be free and the spirit's endurance in the face of suffering. This metaphorical comparison, through personification, helps the poet to write 7 simple lines of poetry that convey an entire novel's worth of meaning. So, you see, personification is often used to help develop the theme of a poem. In Sympathy, for example, the theme revolves around the profound longing for freedom and the resilience of the human spirit. How do you think the personification of the bird helps to develop the theme? Pause the video while you think it over. I'm thinking that the personification of the bird enriches the poem's theme by giving the bird human-like emotions that illustrate a yearning for liberty and the power of perseverance. In fact, without this use of personification, we just have a poem about a literal bird, and there wouldn't be such a clear theme at all. Wow, poets can say a lot just by using personification. When you notice a poet or other author assigning human characteristics to something that is not human, stop and think about what this comparison is saying beyond the literal words, and how it might be contributing to the mood and theme. This week, you'll be reading 2 more poems that take advantage of the power of personification. As you read, consider the personification both poets use to enhance meaning. I'll be listening to more Caroline sneak peeks and thinking about personification until the rest of the album drops. I can't wait to hear the new tunes and put my poetry analysis skills to work along the way. Well, thanks for joining us again in Caroline country. Keep wandering in the world of words, and I'll catch you in the next line.